Good morning. Today we are working on CO9. I can find the square root of a number. So yesterday we did exponents. We're doing the opposite today. So exponents are related to square roots. It's also called a radical. So when we're talking about PERMDAS, we have parentheses, exponents. We now know how to work those exponents in. The R is the radical, which is a square root. So we have, first we do parentheses, then we do exponents or radicals if we have any square roots. Then we do multiply and divide. Then we do add and subtract. So yesterday we talked about the exponent part. Now we're talking about our radical part, which is our square roots. It's up to you if you want to. It's just helping you know. A lot of us, when we saw PERMDAS, we said, oh, I've heard of PEMDAS, but now I see PERMDAS. What is that? So I'm just explaining what it is for our order of operations. So finding the square root means you're looking for a number multiplied by itself. For example, the square root of 25 is 5 because 5 times 5 itself is 25. Using mathematical symbols, the above example looks like the square root of 25 equals 5. So that little symbol means square root. So we're going to practice a few. Now, some of us are saying, oh, I know my multiplication facts. I am good with this. Got it. I know that 5 times 5 is 25. I can say it super fast. Some of us are saying, ooh, I know some of my multiplication facts, but not all. So here is our handy dandy guide for what to do. In your assignment notebook, on page number 6, we have a multiplication table. So if we're going to use a multiplication table, we're going to find that number 25 right here. We're going to say 25 is 5 times 5. So I know the square root of 25 is 5 because it's 5 times 5. So if we look at our next one, square root of 49. So some of us right off the top of our head know what times itself equals 49. Some of us might want to look at our multiplication table. Thank you to my friends who are silent. I appreciate that some of us know the answer right away. But if we do not know our multiplication facts so well, we're going to want to look at where we see 49, and we're going to look at the two numbers we're multiplying together to get to 49, and it should be the same number. So, James, what are we multiplying together to get to 49? 7. 7 times 7 equals 49. So the square root of 49 is 7. Now, if we look at 100, we're going to see, I see 100 right here. So I looked down at my multiplication table. I found 100. Oh, there's a 10 and a 10. But I also see 100. Do I see 100 somewhere else? Nope, that's the only place I see 100 on this table. So 100, what? Yeah. There are other numbers we multiply together to get to 100, but they're not on this table. So because it only goes to 12 and 12, it makes it a little easier. So on this table, I can see 10 times 10 is 100. Now, if you know your multiplication facts and you know 10 times 10 is 100, do we have to look at our multiplication table? No. Is there a way that we can check to see if we were right? Calculator. 10 times 10. Does it equal 100? So you can double check your math by just multiplying that number by itself. Now, when we get to the 16, this is where we have to stop and think. So if we're using that multiplication table, I see a 16 right here. I see that's 2 times 8. So is 2 and 8 the square root of 16? Why not, Aiden?
Because you don't do the 2, right? You only write the 8.
Well, what is the square root? It's the number times itself. So is 8 times 8 16? So can 8 be our square root? Oh. So then what do I do, Bennett?
So the answer
Yeah.
4.
Why would it be 4?
4 times 4 is 16.
Because 4 times 4 is 16. You can only put a number for a square root if it multiplies by itself to equal that number. So 2 times 8 is 16, but it's not a square root because it's not multiplied by itself. It's not 2 times 2. It's not 8 times 8. So we have to find the other 16 on our table that has the same number being multiplied by itself. So we wouldn't just put a 2, we wouldn't just put the 8 because 2 times 2 is 4, 8 times 8 is 64. Neither of those is 16, so it can't be our answer. So if we were to check it with our calculator, we would see that we went to the wrong number. And it's 4 times 4 is 16. So is it a good idea to check your answers with a calculator? Yeah, because it's really easy to say, oh, 16, I know it's 2 and 8. So, oh, I'm going to put 8 because 8 plus 8 is 16. Ooh, we're not adding. We are multiplying. Easy, simple mistakes. You think I'm being silly, but people do it all the time. Okay, so I'm trying to get you to catch yourself before you make these mistakes. So, you are going to do the bottom numbers, square root of 4, square root of 81, square root of 36 on your own. Then we have one handy thing about square roots is we can use them to find sides and lengths of squares. Let's say the area of a square is 25. Since the area of a square is calculated by taking base times height, and we know the base and the height of a square will be the same value, that means something times itself must be 25. Because remember, area equals length times width, and if it's a square, the length and the width, the sides of a square, are all the same size. So if the number times itself equals 25, in order to find one side of it, we would take the square root of 25. So we already actually went over it at the top, so we should know what that answer is. So, well, and it says it here. Thus, taking the square root of the area 25 will give us the length of a side of 5. Remember, this only works for squares. A rectangle can have a short side and a long side, not the same size. So it only works for a square where we know they are going to be the same size. So when you do our word ones, a square has an area of 64 units squared. Find the square root of it to find one of the sides. The height, the base, I call it length and width. Length and width, if we have our square, length times width, it's the same as saying your base and your height. Okay, so base and height are the same as length and width. So I want you to be thinking about your multiplication facts. I am going to show you a couple of different ways to check on with your calculator to make sure that you've done it correctly. So let's look at our calculators. One thing we know we can do is multiplying them. 4 times 4 equals 16. So I know that 4 is the square root of 16. Do you want to see how you can just do a square root on your calculator? So if we know that our number is 16, we want to start with our square root button. So we're going to go to where that little square root symbol is. Oh, nope. Wrong button. My mistake. Sorry. I had this figured out yesterday. I need to re-look at how we do the square root. Oh, the one below it. So you want the square root that's just that square root symbol, not the one with the little x on top. So the one above the x squared is the square root because they're opposite of each other. That x squared and square root are doing the opposites. Then you type in your number and it tells you what it is squared. So let me see if I can get a little bit closer for you. So let's show you that again. Let's do it with our 25. We're going to do the second and go to that little square root symbol.
There will be no more orchestra lessons for the day. Orchestra has been canceled for the rest of the day, and orchestra will not be meeting after school. Thank you.
So you do the second, and then you find that little square root. On my calculator, I have my x squared button, and on right above it is the square root. So I do second, and then I do the button that's right under it. And then let's say I want to find that 25 equals 5. Kind of nifty, huh? We need to be able to know our math. I do not want you just using the calculator on this. I want you finding what number multiplied by itself equals the number, but then you can check it with your square root. So that's how we check our answers. Okay. Are there any questions on our assignment for today? Okay, so if you are watching at home, we hope you are well, and we hope to see you soon.